It's not magic. It's because the universe is energy. Bitcoin is just the most efficient way of channeling energy. It's like gunpowder. If you don't adopt it, you'll be its victim, like Seyfuddin Amu said. It's no other crypto. It's not gold. Gold's going to be taken away from you. So Bitcoin is the only way forward. There's no other way. It's obvious when you study Bitcoin. It's like, okay, this is it.
Today, I'm excited to welcome Gus to the podcast. Gus is a Bitcoin and self-custody advocate and believes Bitcoin is for all humans and that love will triumph over hate. Welcome to the Bitcoin Edge, Gus.
Thank you for having me, Paul. It's a pleasure.
It's great to see you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to Bitcoin.
Yeah, so I was fortunate. There's part of it is luck, I guess, because it depends on what your environment is, what you're exposed to in your day-to-day life. And I was very fortunate to have a childhood friend, Diogo, shout out. He came over to my house and we made a pact, a promise that we're going to invest $100 a week in whatever asset that's going to save our depreciating a dollar. But we started downloading Robinhood and we started actually investing. My wife always wanted me to invest. I didn't know how. And unfortunately, the schools don't teach us that, And so I found this thing. I was clicking through some stocks in Robinhood. When you're new, you're just looking through it and browsing. And then I noticed this thing going from, $10,000 exploding up to $64,000. I'm like, what is this? And I remember hearing it from my 2014, I was in the pizzeria working and I saw it being talked about on the news and I just shrugged it off. And then, of course, fast forward to 2021, April. Sorry, I bought some Bitcoin just to watch what it does. So I've been hooked ever since.
So did you have an altcoin journey or did you go straight to Bitcoin Maxi?
It's an unfortunate, truth for a lot of us. I did have an altcoin journey, a crypto journey that unfortunately I did lose several $1,000s in the Terra Luna debacle with, I forgot his name, Do Kwon. There was a stable coin that was backed by Bitcoin. And anyway, something happened with FTX and something behind the scenes and it just collapsed. And I was like, I'm just going to hold whatever. And then I lost all that money. But good, thankfully, because of Bitcoin, I made it all back because, of course, it went from 16,000 to 126,000.
Yeah, just part of the journey. So I know you keep up with all the current events, and gold and silver have been soaring. Where do you think we are in the current Bitcoin cycle?
I think we are. I mean, evidence shows, and I spend all day thinking and talking about Bitcoin. I watch your podcast all the time. I watch Bitcoin for Millennials and Robin Sayer. I'm in his group of people, actually. We have a little group chat in Telegram. But I spend my all day, literally, whether I'm working at Costco, I love working there, but whether I'm cleaning houses for my business, whether I'm in the ambulance service, I'm always listening to Bitcoin podcasts and just, my phone is triggering me to see some Bitcoin news and events. And I noticed that we are, I think, in my opinion, it takes a major world revolutionary innovation. The same amount of time it takes to go from 0 to 10% of world adoption, it takes that same exact amount of time to go from 10% to 90%. I think we're about 6%. I think we're about to reach the breaking point soon. And we can see that because of, wallets and, of course, stable coins now being passed into law in the United States. And I think that's just an on-ramp to Bitcoin. And it's going to be welcoming massive amounts of people. Now you can see we have an application here. We have several. Cash App, we have Venmo, we have PayPal, and there's some more that it doesn't come to mind right now, but they're all selling Bitcoin and you can self-custody your Bitcoin. It's amazing. So all the normies have it readily available for them. All they need is a triggering event to make them buy and start studying Bitcoin. It's coming fast.
You say that, but price has been going down in US dollars. On this channel, I try not to talk about price too much in US dollars because one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin.
Amen.
But at the same time, in US dollars, it's going down like a bear market type phase of the cycle. And when that happens, a lot of retail don't tend to come in. Do you think it's going to take us to the next bull market for that adoption to start happening?
I think that's actually exactly what's going to happen. So I remember when it dropped from 64,000 to 16,000 or 15.6 thousand. It was all over the news. People were, shouting from the mountaintops, Bitcoin obituaries. And of course, it rage bombed to 20, to 30, to 40, to 50. And we knew it was going to happen. This is why Bitcoiners tell you, eh, any investor from any walk of life, from any sort of asset that they invest in, they tell you study what you're buying. It's so important. This is why we say study Bitcoin. We don't necessarily say buy Bitcoin. First of all, study what you're buying. It's never financial advice what we're saying. But once you do realize what it is, as I did in my opinion, it's going to be the world's unit of account one day. It's going to bank 8 billion people. Right now we have a middleman, and we say in America, cut the middleman. The middleman is the bankster cartels. It takes a significant amount of time to open a bank account, to move money around. You have to get authorization to move more than $10,000 from your money. By the way, it's not your money. It's not in the bank. They don't have it. So Bitcoin is that freeing asset that gives humanity back the power to the people where it actually belongs. So the fact that gold and silver is rising, to mention what we said earlier, I think it's just a natural progression of a dying currency. Every currency, every world currency died, or passed. Sorry to use that word on YouTube. I know it doesn't like very much, but every world currency eventually dissipates and collapses, and some of them are completely irrelevant from any world power. The Portuguese money one day was the world reserve currency. The Dutch money at one point was world reserve currency. The British pound was. There's so many of them, even back to the Roman times, right? The dollar is going to be no different. And I think the dollar saving grace maybe is the stable coin and being intertwined with Bitcoin a little bit. And the more people come in, we're going to see us going from, the 10% world adoption all the way to 90% world adoption, where 6-7 billion or billion people are using Bitcoin in their day-to-day lives.
That's the slowly then suddenly phase, right?
Yes.
Well, you mentioned stable coins, and we were talking a little bit about the current legislation. What are your overall thoughts on stablecoins?
It opens the door for politicians to, before Trump, the Democratic Party was very antagonistic towards Bitcoin. And there was just a few people who actually did some research and decided to be against Bitcoin because, of course, of their bankster donors, with Jamie Dimon being the number one, in my opinion, allegedly being the number one head of this little group of politicians to do everything in their power to ban Bitcoin. But of course, they clearly didn't study Bitcoin, because it's impossible to ban Bitcoin. It's a decentralized distributed ledger worldwide. And the stablecoins, the new bill that just passed into law, is just the door creaking slowly open for the politicians to see inside the most beautiful asset in human history that's going to give 8 billion people their freedom back. And I think that's what it is. It's just, to me, it just looks like an on-ramp. When you go into the highway, you see the ramp right there. You just go in so you can go to wherever you're going. And the destination, the ultimate destination, is Bitcoin. And the politicians are more and more friendly towards it, because they see that Biden, the breaking point, and everyone can see this, the breaking point for Biden is that he was anti-Bitcoin. And when he noticed Trump had the approval rating skyrocket after going to the Bitcoin conference, he's like, oh, you know what? He flip-flopped a little bit. Oh, let's be a little bit friendly towards Bitcoin. But it was too late. Trump already took the election, and Trump knows this very well. If there's one thing he can do very well, is read people and see where the political winds are going, So that is what stable coins are to me. And unfortunately, whether you like it or not, it's an on-ramp to the dollar, like we were talking about earlier before the podcast. Third world countries are suffering. They don't have the dollar. They don't have easy access to the dollar, and stable coins are just an easy access. They just download an app and they can buy stable coins with their Mozambique money, with their, wherever they're from, Nigerian money, Vietnamese money, wherever you're from, you can buy dollars very easily at the click of a button. That's it. So it's just going to bring him to the world of Bitcoin.
Hey there. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help me grow the channel. Want to sleep easy? MICROSEED lets you stamp your seed phrase onto a small steel washer. Buy the device once and use it forever. I love it. It's discreet, precise, and easy to transport. Get yours below. For peace of mind with collaborative custody, the Bitcoin Advisor is a trusted team who can also help with inheritance planning. Just scan the QR code or use the link below and check out these super cool SATOSHOEs with over 40 styles to choose from, plus 10% off with my link below. Now, back to the show. That'll be interesting to see. It's still going to be a bit of a learning curve to understand why they need Bitcoin, but I'm sure that's going to happen in time. Tell us a little bit about what you mean about freedom for 8 billion people.
Oh, yes. By the way, and this, I think, is where you guys, people like you and Robin and Bram, come in. I honestly think your podcast will explode in notoriety, and people massively will come into you guys because you guys are doing the brunt of the work with education. I think it's so important what you do every day, that you're talking to normal people, average people like me, ambulance drivers, EMTs, and, people who do construction, and family people, and, people who are young, the youth. You guys interview everybody, and the general population will have that thirst for Bitcoin knowledge, and they'll come to your podcast. And I think you guys are going to grow so exponentially. Mark my words, in the next 5 to 10 years, and maybe even sooner. What was the question again? I'm sorry. I want to make sure I get to that.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I want to know why you say it's freedom for 8 billion people.
Yes.
Where did that come from in you? I mean, we Bitcoiners understand what that means, but what does that mean to you?
The main thing for me is that the tyrants, people don't suffer as much in America. We're very spoiled or privileged, let's say privileged, that we have checks and balances in our government, that tyrants cannot do what they want, whenever they want, any way they want, because we have several branches of government and they have to agree with each other. You have to sit down and talk. They have to do backdoor meetings, and they have to do Congress meetings. To pass a law, you actually have to introduce a bill from committees, and the committees have to talk beforehand, and they're lobbyists, and there's a whole complex thing happening. And before they do anything, they need the general approval of the population most of the time. But in third world countries, it's not so cut and dry. Unfortunately, in third world countries, the tyrants do whatever they want, whenever they want. They oppress people. We've heard the terrible things that, I don't want to say the triggering words, but just to mention a small example, Saddam, for example, he had dungeons where he did terrible things with his sons to, capture and do terrible things with people who spoke out against him. And he's just one example of so many of them. So freedom from the bankster cartel. The bankster cartel is who elect the politicians throughout the world, and the World Economic Forum, it takes part of that. They loan countries, nation states money. The tyrant says, yes, give me the money. The tyrant enriches himself, and then he leaves office with all the money, and the people have nothing. So Bitcoin is separating money from state. Money is a biological, it's a natural tool that arises from biology. It's just a way that humans will barter and exchange goods and services. Back 10, 15,000 years ago, you'd be with some sort of Germanic tribe or Anglo-Saxon tribe. I'd be with some sort of Roman tribe, and we would exchange. If we had peace, we'd exchange goods and services. You had the fish, I made the spears, and your father made the sword, and my wife made the clothing, and we all would exchange goods and services with each other through bartering until silver and gold came out. And it was a very good tool because it had allowed us to solve the coincidences of one, because it's very hard. Lynn Alden explains it best at her videos that she made and Broken Money. When you enter the Bitcoin world, there's so much good information that you don't even know where to start, where to begin with normies, and you have such love for them and such love for humanity. And you're like, where do I start? Where do we begin? But freedom for all 8 billion people is giving the power back to the people. That's the whole idea of the American Constitution. And every good government, that's what they say at least, but they don't necessarily do, is power to the people. The government belongs to the people. The government was supposed to work for the people, not the other way around. Nowadays in third world countries, you have tyrants who do anything and whatever they want with the people's money, where the people suffer. So when you give that freedom tool to the people, and the tyrants can't take it away, that's when you get freedom for 8 billion people. You can take their gold away. You can take their houses away. You can take their tools away. You can take their jobs away. You can take, unfortunately, their families away. But you cannot take people's Bitcoin. 12 words in your brain, and that's it. You can move with millions, thousands across any border you'd like. People wouldn't even know that you have it.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing tool that we have. When you share about that, you're talking about Bitcoin in self-custody, right? Tell us about
Yes.
that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I should mention that more often. The Bitcoiners are really good about that. So Bitcoin in self-custody is when you have, and you don't have to buy a device. This is the beauty of self-custody too. You don't have to buy a device. We're not selling anything. You can just download a reputable app. That's where you got to be careful. A lot of Bitcoin is a very powerful technology that gives you the freedom, but it also hands you responsibility. So, if there's fraud with your bank account or your credit card, the bank will usually make restitutions. If you sign the wrong transaction to the wrong address, your money's lost forever. So this is where we pay attention to learn how to self-custody. But yeah, you can download an app or you can buy a device. The ultimate best way you could do is buy a device. Like, there's so many of them out in the market. Just Bitcoin sign-in device or Bitcoin hardware wallet. You just Google that and you'll get a bunch of different ones. But hopefully you generate the seed offline. And that seed is your wallet or your Bitcoin. Of course, you have to buy the Bitcoin and send it to your seed so you can have it in self-custody. But you will generate 12 to 24 words, and you save those 12 to 24 words, and that's also important. So if you don't have a good memory, I'm not a very smart guy, but my blessing is that I have a very good memory. Ever since I was a kid, I would memorize Bible verses. Ever since I was 13, I cracked open the Bible, memorized Bible verses. I had the book of John memorized at one point. I think I still do. I have several Psalms. So to me, 12 words are like, whatever. So I just did a 24-word seed. I have several 24-word seed phrases that I memorized and I recite it when I'm working on an undertone. I don't move my lips. I don't say it at all because there's cameras everywhere, of course, and recording devices that we don't know of. But you memorize those words, and if you can't memorize it, you write it on titanium. You stamp it. I just got MICROSEED from Michael Saylor. And there's like these little letters of the alphabet, and you stamp it. It's called MICROSEED because you stamp it in a tiny little washer, and the words are embedded in the washer. And the beauty of it is you can hide it anywhere. For example, not saying I do, I don't. In the attic, in a dark attic somewhere, you just nail it to your ceiling of the roof itself. No one knows it's there. That's one idea. There's thousands of other ideas. You can ask AI, ChatGPT. Be careful what you write in there. Of course, never ever put your seed phrase online. There is a horror story about that with one of our good friends on X Twitter. I'm sure you've heard of that. His father stored the seed phrase in a Google Docs, and he lost 25 Bitcoins. So it was very, very, the guy's a legend. He's a warrior. He was helped by the community, but never store your seed phrase anywhere online in your phone. Don't take pictures of it. Store it physically. Best of all, memorize it, but hide it. So that's what self-custody is, that no one can take it away from you.
Yeah. And a big shout out to Robin Sayer and Daniel and MICROSEED because it is an amazing product. I have it too.
Nice.
And just to mention, that seed phrase is only if you lose your device or your phone or your cold wallet. But it's really important because if somebody finds that seed phrase, they can get all of your funds, like you mentioned.
Yep, absolutely.
Holding your Bitcoin in self-custody is an important step towards self-sovereignty, but writing your seed phrase on paper is risky. Paper can burn, fade, or get lost. MICROSEED helps you stamp your seed phrase onto a small steel washer. Buy the device once and use it forever. I love it. It's durable, precise, and easy to transport. Use my link below for 5% off. Now, back to the show. So, I saw on X that you also run a business and buy Bitcoin for your business. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. I was approved by all the shareholders to start buying Bitcoin, and the shareholders are my mom, my stepdad, and my wife, and we run a family business. And we love it because we've had clients who are wonderful, and we're very fortunate. We provide them value, we provide them a service. It goes to show how Bitcoin just makes people even more productive. Bitcoin not only is over 64% renewable from renewable sources, and it seeks stranded energy. For people who don't know that, they say, oh, Bitcoin is destroying the environment. No, Bitcoin is helping the environment. That's why when people say that, you realize they don't understand Bitcoin. So that's when with love, it's kind of hard because we get frustrated because they don't know what Bitcoin is. So that's when we kind of summon our love, even though it's hard, from our inner heart, and we tell them, listen, no, Bitcoin is actually very renewable. But our business is buying Bitcoin. And in 2021, I was introduced to Michael Saylor. That's what made me a Bitcoin maximalist, along with Matthew Crowder's videos. And we buy Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, and we've been buying it for 2 years now. I was approved by the board, and I'm kind of like the CFO in a way. I take care of the finances, do payroll, and we're very happy to say that Bitcoin is our strategic reserve asset because we employ more than a dozen people now, and it makes the company rock solid. We're building on a rock solid foundation that is Bitcoin. We're never going to sell our Bitcoin. The fact that Bitcoin price, even though you said you don't like to talk about price, I love that. Bitcoin price is down. That is very good. The price in terms of fiat to me is meaningless. To other people, it means something. I know what Bitcoin is. It's going to go to 50,000. I'm sorry, 500,000, and then it's going to go to 50 million, and then it's going to go to 100 million, and then fiat currencies are all going to perish forever, because Bitcoin is perfectly scarce. 21 million, for almost 4 million already have been lost. SATOSHEES coins will never move, so it's actually like 16 million, and the last Bitcoin will be mined in 2140. So we choose to invest or save in Bitcoin because it's going to be the world reserve asset one day and the unit of account. So our company is being built on a rock solid foundation that's Bitcoin.
Wonderful. So did you have to invest? No, let me start again. Did you have to educate your board members on Bitcoin? Because yes, I don't talk about price predictions so much, but it's important for newcomers because new people need to know that the price might go down, and this is okay. We're just going to buy more. Did you have to have that conversation?
Yes. So my mom has always been very supportive, and she actually, when I first mentioned Bitcoin to her, she said she has a friend who back in 2015, 2016 was telling her parents to put everything in Bitcoin. Back then, Bitcoin price was like $2,500, $3,000. And they didn't listen to her, and Bitcoin exploded upwards. And then she was like, see, I told you. So my mom learned that lesson from her friend, and so she's been very supportive. She is totally on board with us, and we've been putting all the surplus of the company in Bitcoin. And the fact that the price is going down, my mother also understands. My stepdad, he doesn't really look at price. He just likes to see the day-to-day of the company and see that we're thriving and flourishing, thankfully, because we provide very good service. We do a better than average cleaning job. We're 100% customer satisfaction guaranteed. So if we sell a deep clean, for example, and the customer is not happy with something, they have 24 to 48 hours to let us know, and we'll go back and redo it, and there is no extra charge to them. So people, of course, when you provide a good service, they do the word of mouth thing where they tell their friends, their families, their neighbors, and that's how we've grown so much. We don't even have to spend that much on marketing because the clients, when you do provide a good service, the clients do the marketing for you, of course. And yeah, my family has been on board. My wife watched our portfolio. She always wanted me to invest, and I didn't know how. And I told her, honey, I'm sorry, I don't know how to invest. I'm afraid I'm going to lose money in the stock market. It's gambling. You say that when you're ignorant. And then, of course, she watched our portfolio first go from, we bought Bitcoin at 60,000. It dropped. I kept putting money as it dropped. That was catching a fallen knife. It was dropping. And then you got 16,000. I'm like, what am I doing? I think it was 2022. And then I'm like, I studied Bitcoin harder. I doubled and tripled down. And of course, we watched it go from 25 to 30 to 35 to 40. And it was euphoric, of course, because it's going up and you're putting more money in. It goes up. And then it got to 126,000. I'm like, should I sell? You know, back when it was 120, I'm like, absolutely not. What am I going to sell into? The fiat currency dollar, where the tyrants can just knock my door down and take my money, take my house, take my assets, take my car, take my gold, take my silver? Absolutely not. What did I do? I double and triple down again, and I'm going to continue to do it with my company and, of course, the equity of my house. I was waiting for a dip. I was waiting to get an approval from my wife because, of course, when you're married, you got to make sure that you do things, together. And I have her approval. So we're going to put our equity. I bought the house for $98,000 in 2018. We're going to start putting the equity into Bitcoin. We're just finding a pathway to do it that is safe, and Bitcoiners have already contacted me, so I have appointments set already. I'm talking to Rocket Mortgage. I'm talking to, several Loan Depot and other places that provide those services. I'm just seeing what's the best way to do it,
But tell us a little more about taking home equity out of your house and putting that into Bitcoin. Would you have a certain amount that you would take, or are you at the point where you would take the maximum amount?
I'm at the point that I will take the maximum amount, which is I was very fortunate to buy the house in 2018. I think from 2015 to 2018, it was like a market bottom, as they say in America, North America in general, because Canada was low too, and then the numbers just toppled down. And I paid $98,000 for a pretty medium-sized American average home, and we put money into it. Fix this, fix that. Did a new bathroom, did a new roof. Our roof is new. We got solar panels, so there's basically no electricity bill. We just pay a flat rate for the panels, and so we generate our own electricity. But yeah, it's significant. For those who don't know, the United States government, the Federal Reserve, printed about 42% of all the dollars to have ever existed. Not on that year, from 2020 through 2024, they printed over 42% of all the dollars to have ever existed and that exist now. Almost half of all the dollars. So they hyperinflated the market. All the asset prices exploded. Of course, rich people are very happy because they have stocks, bonds, gold, they have Bitcoin. They're very happy. So that's why the price exploded so much. And it's going to continue to happen. The banksters are not going to stop printing the money. This is why, of course, I had that little voice telling me, should you sell some? I'm like, no, absolutely not. They're just going to print more. And right now there's some tightening happening. Interest rates are through the roof. The central banks are having a little bit of a fight with Trump. So he's going to get a Bitcoiner in there, by the way. And the Federal Reserve of the United States is going to be run by a Bitcoiner, or at least Bitcoin friendly to those who don't believe he's a Bitcoiner. He is at least Bitcoin friendly, and he's going to have a Bitcoin centered mentality when he's making those Fed policy decisions. And so since they printed all that money, my house exploded in price, and now it's supposedly worth $300,000, which, of course, in reality, the house is supposed to depreciate in value because things deteriorate inside a house like a car. The wood gets older every day, the siding gets older every day, the house settles, it tilts, and, but because of inflationary money that the world uses, called fiat currencies. Fiat in Latin is by decree, meaning it's backed by nothing. So the house goes up in value along with other assets because the ruler is broken. This is why Bitcoin is, we say, rules without rulers. It's a set. One Bitcoin is 100 million Satoshis. You cannot print anymore. There's 21 million max supply forever. This is why Bitcoin is going to be the world reserve asset, because humans are smart. They're smart. They see through it. This is where you come in, and I thank you for that. And I thank Robin Sayer and Bram from Bitcoin for Millennials and all the other Bitcoiners, TFTC and what Bitcoin did. There's so many podcasts. I don't think there's enough Bitcoin podcasts, the Bitcoin podcast with Walker. You guys are going to be doing the education of tens of millions, hundreds of millions, and eventually billions of people. So thank you for that. You guys are in the front lines of this battle for the freedom of humanity.
Well, thank you. It's funny, I was just contacted by Bitcoin Vegas for 2026. I wasn't planning to go because I'm going to Prague. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to share that I'll be a speaker at BTC Prague 2026, the biggest and most influential Bitcoin-only event in Europe, from the 11th to the 13th of June. Come and join me to hear incredible speakers like Michael Saylor, Jack Mallers, Frat Fenixon, and many more, and connect with a community of true Bitcoiners. Get your tickets now before prices go up, and use my link below for a discount. See you there. And they said, we want you to come and be on a panel talking about how to start a podcast, because I have inspired quite a few people, because they think if she can do it.
No.
No, seriously. I mean, I have no technical knowledge. I just wanted to talk to Bitcoiners, and
I love that.
love it. I mean, Bitcoiners are amazing. I love what you're talking about and all the podcasts. I want to go back to, that stat that the US government printed 42% of the money ever printed. I tell my family this, I tell friends this. People sometimes it just goes over their head. But what that actually means is that they are devaluing our currency and putting a silent tax on its citizens, right? That's what people don't quite get to. You mentioned, like, where do we start with people? I think we have to start with what is money, and
Oh, yes. Oh,
then
yes.
inflation. But it depends. I guess you have to meet people where they are. What matters to them?
Yes, yeah, well said. Oh my God. Well, it's theft. Let's call it what it is. It's literally stealing from future generations. They basically, the banksters, they build it, and I do call them banksters every time. I don't give them the dignity of being bankers. They're banksters. They're cartels. There are several cartels who's mainly there are several entities that take part in that cartel, and there's many banking industries here that actually own the Federal Reserve, which is a private entity that has it's not federal and doesn't have any reserves. But that passion that you have, that I have, that Bitcoiners have, and Bitcoiners really are amazing. When you meet a Bitcoiner, they're just very passionate. Bitcoin attracts the best of the best, and that's the passion that's going to bring about hyper Bitcoinization. It will happen. And I think it's just a matter of time, honestly, because it takes a minority, a very loud minority, to bring about something, right? We all know this. The Revolutionary War in America was fought by a tiny minority. People don't realize that. Most people didn't care. Other people were like, the Brits are fine, or the Americans are fine, whichever I'm fine with. Most people were indifferent. But because of that loud minority, like you, like me, that's why the world was like, wait a minute, what is this? And that education's going to be brought about. Of course, all the new generations are being born, raised, educated, work and live online. Kathy Wood from ARK Invest, who are buying massive amounts of Bitcoin. She said, and it opened my mind, it's stuck with me forever now. I think about it every day. All the new generations are digitally native. They're born in the internet. Whether you like it or not, they're born in the internet. The banking is done online, the commerce done online, the work is done online. Lots of people go into the office once or twice a week. Like my best friend, he's a paramedic. He was a paramedic. He became he works for an insurance company, but he just goes to the office like once or twice a week. The other days he gets to spend with his newborn baby. It's so beautiful. Most people are working from home because of this magical thing that I'm talking in front of, and we're communicating at the speed of light across the world. It's so beautiful. I ask people, what do you think money is going to be? It's so simple, guys. It's going to be a decentralized peer-to-peer distributed ledger that's decentralized and impossible to stop. It's uninflatable by the banksters. It's incorruptible by the politicians. It's available to all 24/7. No holidays. There is no, there is no holidays. There's no weekends. It's 2 a.m. on a Saturday going on to a Sunday. It's 2 a.m. and you can do a Bitcoin transaction. I can send you money. You can send me money. We can sign messages. There's so much you can do with Bitcoin, and that's what's setting humanity free.
Yeah, that's amazing. You mentioned that the current administration has been pro-Bitcoin, and we've got a lot of favorable legislation. The one thing that I always go back to, there's two things here, and I just want to hear your thoughts. The one thing is the Cantillon effect, that the people at the top always benefit the most from the printing. So it's in their interest to keep the current system going. However, as Jeff Booth says, there is no they, only us.
Yes.
People in government are also us, and they are good people too. So do you see somehow they're going to realize they just can't beat it, so
Of course, and I wouldn't, like you said, there's no they, there's only us, and I know exactly the part. He's just, I love Jeff Booth, guys. So you see, Bitcoin attracts so many good people that people are having epiphanies as we talk, as we speak right now. People are watching Bitcoin podcasts, your videos, Robin's videos, Jeff Booth, Lawrence Lepard, people from all walks of life, Muslims, Jews, Christians, Hindus, everyone is speaking every language. They're talking about Bitcoin as we speak and bringing more people into our fold, and they're planting a small seed that's going to maybe sprout in 2 years, 3 years. But, there's no they, there's only us. Look at Cynthia Lummis. There are good people in Congress. There are good people in the House of Representatives. There are not a dozen anymore in the House of Representatives. There's not 2 dozen. There's not 3 dozen. There's many more people who are actively advocating for Bitcoin. And Cynthia Lummis is a small example. There's other people that love Bitcoin. Thomas Massie has time and time again said he's pro Bitcoin. Rand Paul said he's fine with it. And so eventually, yes, people, like, for example, I have a patient for years, and it's it's a senator's family member, and whenever I have a relevant doorway that we can talk about that, I mention Bitcoin. Eventually she'll mention it to the senator, and eventually and they talk about it. It's like seeds being implanted. And I think that the truth always comes out in the end. Look at the horrible crimes that we watched happen with that terrible man that I will not even say the name. People thought that will never come out into the light, but the truth always comes out. There's a certain righteousness in, I call him God, other people call him the universe, other people call him karma, I call him Father. There's a certain truth and perfect righteousness that whatever is hidden, Jesus said himself, whatever is hidden, he will shout it from the mountaintops. He will bring it into the light, into the top of the mountains, to yell to the people. Everyone's going to know. Bitcoin is a self-evident truth, immutable truth, that is going to be shown to the whole world. And it's going to be inarguable because the truth presents itself and people see its self-evidence. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you. That's the stage we're in, and then Bitcoin wins. That's the beauty.
And the truth does set you free. And
Amen.
you mentioned that love will triumph over hate. Is that
Every
true?
time.
Why
Yep.
are you so sure of that?
Because we were made in the image and likeness of God. And again, other people call him universe, karma, whatever. There is a superior force. Everybody knows that. And it's innate in our hearts because we're made in the image and likeness of God. The Bible says, not once, not twice, not 3 times, a couple dozen times, the Bible says, God is love. That's the essence of his being. This is why God, love is God, God is love. It will triumph over hate. It will triumph over everything because hate is irrelevant. When the light comes in, darkness disappears instantly. You just got to shine the light, and the light comes from God, whose image we're made in the likeness, and we're made in his image and likeness, so we have that light, and eventually it's going to be a self-evident truth, and people, what are you going to choose, a rotten apple? A rotten apple is disgusting. That's fiat currency. You're going to choose the attractive, beautiful apple that lasts forever, that nourishes you and your children. You're not going to give your child a snake. You're not, eventually people see that fiat comes from the banksters, and the banksters do not have our well-being in mind. Oh, they do not have our well-being in mind. But Bitcoin doesn't care, and it's something so beautiful that sets you free because it's the immutable truth. You sign a transaction that's there forever. No one can change that, period. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin too. There's so much to it, and that's why I always encourage people to study it for themselves. Listen to podcasts or experts that go in these podcasts. And what I like about you and Robin is that you interview everyday people, so people get to see the perspective of random strangers for now. The BTC fam's growing, but random people from around the globe, from all walks of life, they can give their perspective and present Bitcoin in a way that's true to them. And there's many perspectives, of a certain thing. You ask someone, they may describe like this, like that, and that's how you kind of grasp the whole reality of things.
You have over 24,000 followers on X, which is amazing. Have you thought of starting a podcast, and what's your main message to them?
I have thought about starting a podcast. My main message to them is to, love your neighbor as yourself, and love truth and do unto others as you want done unto you. That is, don't hurt anyone. Never even think of hurting anyone. It's unthinkable. If you don't want to love someone, that's okay. Jesus tells us to love even our enemies. Jesus tells us to love everybody. That's okay if you don't want to love someone. Just don't hurt them. That's so simple. And never, ever hurt the kids. So I've thought about, I love children. I knew I wanted to have kids ever since I was 11. My father never spent any time with me because he had some issues he was going through. And so I've always knew I wanted kids. So I'm thinking of doing something for kids. Maybe not a podcast, like Tuttle Twins is doing a great job to educating, children with Bitcoin, on Bitcoin. I'm thinking about doing some sort of like a book series or series for children with my children, so we can kind of talk about Bitcoin and what it is and what it does, what problems it solves. So yeah, to answer your question, I have thought about something like that, but to be honest, there's already great legends like you and so many others that are doing such a great job. So every time I get a chance, people ask me, "Oh, what is this? How does Bitcoin work? Where can I learn about this?" I send them the Bitcoin for Millennials. I send them your podcast because I listen to specific ones. And when the person has a specific question, I'm like, Paula talked to Lynn Alden about this. I'm going to send the link. I've sent that Lynn Alden link, your interview to so many people, I've lost count. So I think you guys have it pretty solved. So eventually for children with my children so that more children can learn about it.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And you mentioned Matthew Crowder earlier. Does that mean you run a node?
Yes, ma'am. Of course, Matthew Crowder. Kudos to him. He had a lot of patience. Love is patient, love is kind. Matthew Crowder had a lot of patience with me because I used to be in his comment section like, "Oh, but ETH this and ETH that," and I didn't even know what ETH did. And he said, "Gus, ETH is going to go proof of stake. It's no longer going to be proof of work. That means it's just fiat, arbitrary fiat, type punched in a screen by random tyrants, a centralized party." I'm like, "Really?" And then I noticed that ETH went proof of stake, and I'm like, "That's it." That's when 2022, I sold it all. I sold all my cryptos. I cut my losses, and I went all in Bitcoin thanks to Matt Crowder. So yeah, he's great. I do run a node, of course. I run several nodes actually, but I proudly broadcast my own transactions on my node, which is really cool that you can do that.
Yeah, that's another level. Very cool. I was just thinking, even if ETH didn't change to proof of stake, it still had a leader. Bitcoin has no leader, and that is huge. And nothing against Vitalik. He might be a great guy, but who knows what the next guy will be like.
Yep, and any tyrant can shove a weapon in his face and say, "You gotta do this," and you're not gonna tell anyone about it. And it's just a group of people. It's a company. It's clearly a company. Gary Gensler had it right. It's an unregistered security. What is the 4 prongs of the Howey test? An investment of money, A. B. In a common enterprise, C. With expectations of profit, D. Derived from the effort of others. That's Ethereum. I'm sorry if that was loud, but that's literally an unregistered security. And of course, they had favorable people now in government. But we'll see. But you're right. Even if it's proof of stake, but at least proof of stake, I could kind of make an excuse to go and have something. But you're right. It has a CEO. It's a company. The Ethereum Foundation's a company. Vitalik's a CEO with the board members, Joe Lubin and all these guys, allegedly, in my opinion. But Bitcoin, thank you for bringing this up. It's my favorite. Bitcoin had the Immaculate Conception. Satoshi created a way. He gave it away for free and walked away. He never moved his coins. He never touched his coins. No one know who he is, what he is, where he is. And he knew that's what he needed to do. It was immaculately conceived, like Prometheus giving us fire. Like the first Oogabooga caveman inventing the wheel, discovering the wheel, right? And it's obvious. You look at a wheel, you're like, as a human, you put like a wood structure on it, and all of a sudden you just pull a cart with horses. Now you can go 10 times the speed of walking, And you can take 100 times the load because you can put many horses, not just one. And now you can pull giant amounts of materials elsewhere. That's how people go west, young men. That's how people went west and of course, colonized the rest of the United States and other countries too. But it's just obvious to me. Bitcoin is obvious. It's the obvious next step in the evolution of human civilization. You know, fire, the wheel, the telephone. You know, now back in the days we could talk with each other across the world, and then it makes sense because there's like a wire that's connected somewhere to a grid. But now, you know, you have a phone and you can just talk, like there's no wires, and you're like, what is this, you know? And that brings me to, you know, Nikola Tesla of blessed memory. He said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you just have to think in terms of frequency, energy, and vibrations. Back in the days, people were like, this man is insane. He got a screw loose. He's crazy. But then Wi-Fi comes up and you're like, wait a minute. And then energy is discovered and channeled in the form of electricity, right? And we build power grids. And now all of a sudden you have radio waves. You know, I can talk with you through a radio a couple miles away. How? You know, it's not magic. It's because the universe is energy. Bitcoin is just the most efficient way of channeling energy. It's like gunpowder. If you don't adopt it, you'll be its victim, like Seyfuddin Ammous said. There's so many people with PhDs and doctorates in economics that are like, yes, it's Bitcoin. This is it. You know, it's no other crypto. It's not gold. Gold's going to be taken away from you. For those who don't know, look up Executive Order 6102. Executive Order where the President of the United States confiscated the gold from its citizens. It can happen again. What makes you think it's not going to happen again? You know, so Bitcoin is the only way forward. There's no other way. It's like, it's obvious when you study Bitcoin. It's like, okay, this is it.
Yeah, and you reminded me that you brought up gold, and that what Cathie Wood said about the new generation. The old generation is buying gold. That's why it went up. But as the new generation comes in, they won't be buying gold. That is, you know, antiquated technology compared to Bitcoin. They'll be buying Bitcoin.
Oh, absolutely. I have no doubt. By the way, the gold price exploded, skyrocketed, because for those who don't know, people are dumping U.S. bonds, massive amounts of it. The country where I was born in, Brazil, the government is already offloading every year 60 billion, 100 billion, you know, 50 billion every month, every year. They're offloading in their bonds and they're not buying anymore. And the bond auctions have been a cricket sounds, because not many people are buying our bonds, to the point that there is offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands that allegedly belongs to the Federal Reserve, who's been buying its own buying its own bonds. So now you have allegedly offshore bank accounts that belongs to the Federal Reserve committing fraud, allegedly, you know. This has been reported from several places that, you know, in American media they don't talk about it because it's a shame. You know, it's a shame that, you know, in China, back to gold, China is the one, and India, Pakistan, Brazil, you know, Argentina, all these countries, these major powers, the top 20 with the GDP, they're the ones buying gold. That's the governments who are buying gold. That's why the gold exploded. And I'm not surprised, because like you said, the old people are in power now. The older generation are still in power. So they bought gold, you know. They're just buying gold left and right. As the new generation comes into power, then we're going to see all of that capital flow into Bitcoin. And if you back away for a minute and you look at all the world assets, all the real estate, all the gold, all the precious metals, all the companies, there are 400 million companies in the world right now. There is almost $900 trillion worth of things that worth of value in the world. And eventually, Bitcoin is the black hole that's going to suck all that in.
Do you think there's any risk that Bitcoin is too complicated and won't gain adoption?
Yes, that's a great point. So it will gain adoption specifically because of layer 2s and 3s. So now Venmo makes it extremely easy for you to buy Bitcoin. And Unfortunately, a lot of people are not going to self-custody. This is where we come in, telling them to self-custody, to generate a seed phrase and withdraw those Bitcoins to cold storage. But layer 2s and layer 3s are assuring that people have access to it. And it's getting less and less complicated. People say the tech's clunky. No. If you open up a computer, it's extremely complicated, but you don't have to understand what the wires and the chips do. You can just turn it on. It's user friendly. That's where Venmo, PayPal, and all, Cash App, Strike, that's where they come in. Now you can literally get paid your paycheck in a Strike bank account. Strike from Jack Mallers automatically turns it into Bitcoin. So you're literally getting paid in Bitcoin. And there's so many other use cases. So that's where layer 2s and 3s come in. That's why it's so important to have it in layers. So I think it's actually going to get easier and easier as we see today. And so more and more people are going to come in. Adoption's only going to increase, and it's going to be exponential. I do believe it took 17 years to go from 0 to 6% where we are now. It's going to get to a point. It doesn't have to be 10%. There's no little guy saying, hey, it's 10%, go to 90. No, at one point, we're about to hit that breaking point. At one point, we get to 7, 8, and then boom, it's going to be the same amount of time, 15 to 17 years to go from 10 or 6 or 8% all the way to 90, 95% world adoption. Once that exponential phase starts, we saw that with the washing machine, with the dryers, with televisions. The first televisions was really expensive. No one could afford. In the third world countries, people used to rent televisions. My wife grew up, they had an old clunky TV, that somebody sold to them from the 80s, and there was a clicker with like 4 channels, click, click, and they used to have to go charge the battery. I'm sure you've seen that in Zimbabwe. I don't know, maybe they still have it, they still don't. I'm sorry, I don't know, but my wife, when she was a kid, her father used to go in the charging station with a huge battery from the TV, and they would charge it. They would wait for it to charge, bring it back home so they could watch the soap operas and the movies, and so and Jeff Booth said all prices lower to the marginal cost of production, I believe. TVs became more, because it's deflationary, they became more and more affordable as the internet and the tech grew. As more companies manufacture, as new layers, as new applications come out, people are going to fight for those applications. They're going to adopt the applications, and the companies have to compete to do the better service, the best service, the easier service, the best user interface. And that's exactly what's going to happen to Bitcoin. There's many layers being built with so many companies. If you look at the ecosystem of Bitcoin, there's a whole circle I saw last year, and it must have grown by now. It's like thousands, tens of thousands of companies building atop Bitcoin, including my cleaning business. We only buy Bitcoin. We only save in Bitcoin. We don't have any cash reserves. Whatever we have in the checkings account is to, buy products and pay the employees. Everything else is in Bitcoin, though, So there's so many companies doing that now. 400 million companies worldwide. 400 million companies. Imagine when 10 million companies wants to buy a Bitcoin. It's going to be a breaking point that supply and demand really pressures up, and the price will just skyrocket, and people will leave fiat for good. Fiat will perish. I think governments will always have their government tokens. The dollar is going to exist for a long time, the digital dollar, the digital euro. But as we see in Nigeria too, people opted out of the Naira, the digital Naira. The young people, they want Bitcoin, they want stablecoins, they want the dollar. There's no forcing individuals to do whatever they want anymore. People have access to applications. It's a $30, $40 phone. They can have Bitcoin now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bitcoin for many companies like yours are going to become a store of value, and then eventually we're also going to use it as a medium of exchange, right? That's the next progression.
Yep, and we already take Bitcoin. We receive Bitcoin. We haven't yet seen a Bitcoin transaction being done as a means of payment, but that's because our clients are normies, everyday people. I've had an opportunity to provide a cleaning service for my man Ruben Hoddle, shout out, but it didn't work out because I was cleaning an expo that weekend. So eventually we're going to see a grow. I'm going to see one Bitcoin transaction, one person paying in Bitcoin, and then weeks are going to go by, two, and then months, and then it's going to be hundreds, and then thousands, and then everybody's going to be paying in Bitcoin. I don't know if by then I'm 40, 45, but it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. And that's, that's our passion. That's what's going to be the self-fulfilling prophecy, that people are going to start adopting Bitcoin. They're going to see, why do these people love it so much? Just like the internet, there's a video of Bill Gates, I believe, talking to that famous American host. I forgot his name, but the famous American host is a nighttime show, and he makes fun of the internet, saying, have you ever heard of radios? You want to watch a baseball game? But he didn't understand the internet is so much more than just listening to baseball games. It's so much more than a digital newspaper. You can communicate through it. You can do so countless, infinite amounts of things on the internet. Look at AI. It came from the internet, right? That's the foundation for so many innovations. That's Bitcoin. It's the tip of the iceberg is above the water. The rest, the 90% of the iceberg under there, that's what Bitcoin is. There's so much to it. And even I've spent about the last 4 or 5 years now thinking about Bitcoin every day, and I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm literally spent studying Bitcoin every single day of my life for 4 years now, and I still don't know everything. There's so much more to learn still, and as new layers get built, there's so much more to it too. So yeah, it's gonna come.
I love that. Me too. I've spent the last 4 or 5 years studying Bitcoin. It's amazing. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and you've got to keep going deeper. But the one thing that would be important is that we get tax legislation, and that we don't get taxed on our Bitcoin transactions, because it is going to be money. So that's another thing we need.
Absolutely. I think it'll come. I believe, who is it? Portugal and the Czech Republic. If in Portugal, if you own the Bitcoin for more than 2 years, you never have any capital gains tax anymore. It's going to happen again as the younger generation comes into power, and they're all going to be Bitcoiners. That they're going to say, of course, yeah, it's going to be like at the blink of an eye. You're going to see that they're going to take away capital gains tax from Bitcoin, and we're all going to be exchanging goods and services with it. And plus, how can you keep track of that? If I go visit you in Zimbabwe or wherever you are, and I pay you 25,000 Satoshis, who's going to know? Who's going to care? I just, like, people barter nowadays, like I'll clean their house for them providing daycare for my children. People will fix your computer and you pay them 50,000 Satoshi, whatever. It's too rough to keep track of. It's impossible.
Yeah, that's a great point. If I want to barter with you and I give you lemons to clean my house, that doesn't get taxed. So
yeah, and money in America, money is speech. In America, literally money was deemed speech back in the 80s. And speech, the people were arguing against money in politics, and a federal judge said, you know what, money is equivalent to speech. So at what point does Bitcoin actually become money? That's when everybody agrees that Bitcoin's money, and that's it. Money is speech. Is the First Amendment. It's already money is Bitcoin's code, and code is speech. Back in the 90s, under the Bill Clinton era, was deemed speech. So computer code is money. Money is computer code, and it's going to be all protected under the First Amendment. We're already at that pathway. We can see from afar. When you're traveling in the sea and you see land, and land ahoy, there's land, I see it. We're going to get there. It just takes some time,
Yeah. So for our last question, you've talked a lot about how Bitcoin's changed you. And I'd like to hear how Bitcoin's changed you maybe in the last couple of years.
Yeah, Bitcoin has given me peace. I've read the Bible in Hebrew, and I've learned to read and write Hebrew, which is the original language of the Bible that the Bible was written in. And the word peace means shalom comes from shalem. Shalem means complete, fulfilled, happy, joyous, zen, at peace. So Bitcoin has brought me so much joy. Of course, my kids are my biggest joy in the world, but Bitcoin, every time I'm having a bad day, I remember, oh, I have Bitcoin. And then my bad day just goes away and things come back down. Bitcoin stabilizes you. It makes you fulfilled. It makes you feel complete. It makes you feel at peace. Every time, sometimes you're going about your day, you're working hard, you're having some stress, you get a headache, and then you remember, oh yeah, there's hope. There's Bitcoin, and it's obvious. Everyone's going to go for it. And all of a sudden, to answer your question, it's made me happier, more joyful, more at peace.
Because you don't have to be worrying about your future anymore.
If a tyrant comes in power and someone wants to take away my things, okay, I just transfer everything to Bitcoin. Bye. Take everything.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Gus. Tell us where people can find you.
Yeah, Scavacini777 on X, Twitter, at Scavacini777. I also have a YouTube page, and I post videos from there all the time, and I appreciate you having me. It's been a pleasure. I could do this for 1,000 hours if you want.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you, Paula.